Well, first off, before we get started, this is the first time I've been in the King Center. I've been in the one in Memphis, Tennessee, the museum, but so many people here, I'd like to also extend an apology to the King family and everyone out there, everyone that in my past did a lot of terrible things. I said a lot of terrible things. I said a lot of terrible things about Dr. Martin Luther King, things that, of course, I had no idea what I was talking about, but I learned from other people, but there's no excuse. I did it anyway. And I extend my apology to everyone.
Well, thank you, sir. Follow-up question, and then Doc and Daryl just weigh in. Scott, how'd you get from where you were to where you are now?
Well, I joined the Ku Klux. I actually got involved with the white supremacist movement when I was 16 years old.
Where are you from?
Indianola, Mississippi, okay. Which I sadly say is also the home of the White Citizens Council. I wasn't raised by racist parents. Or a racist mother or father. Strangely enough, I was raised by a black lady who worked for my grandmother probably from the time she was about 16 years old until my grandmother died around in her 80s. She raised my mother, she raised my brother, she raised my sister, she raised me and my younger sister, and people can't understand how I got off into that direction. And for a long time, I didn't either. I now have an idea. I came from a broken home, which also, was an alcoholic father. That was a very violent alcoholic, and I didn't like myself. I didn't like anyone, and I was looking for a place to fit in. And of course, with the Ku Klux Klan being in my backyard, that's where I went. Now, I also say this also: if it had been ISIS, or any other terrible organization, it very much could have been one of those, and I could have been very much Dylan Ruth.
Wow. Doc, let me ask you about. Many of us can attempt to draw a line between the Klan and our own individual lives, but you certainly can draw a straight line from your family to the Klan and what that meant. So, what's it like for you sitting next to this man who was once a part of an organization that meant harm for your father in particular?
The word that describes it for me is redeeming. One of the principles of nonviolence is unearned suffering is redemptive. What my father sacrificed his life for is what brought this possibility into being. And so, I obviously grew up in a household of love, unconditional love. And what he's speaking to is a deficit of that. That's why he found a home there, because he was looking for a place to belong and to be embraced. And the reason he could end up there is the same reason some of our black kids end up in gangs. There's a deficit of unconditional love surrounding people. And so my answer to Bakari would say they get that kind of hate so deep in their heart because there's a deficit there. And when people say you can literally love the hate out of people, it can happen. I was dangerously close like my father because of an experience he had early on as a teenager. He won this oratorical contest down in Dublin, Georgia, when he was 15 years of age. And on his way back, they had to stop through some town. And because the bus was crowded, he had to give up his seat to a white person. And that angered him. And it caused him to be very close to hating all white people. Imagine if Dr. King had let that lie resident in his heart. But because he continued to be surrounded by people who unconditionally loved him and his family in the community that he grew up in, that hate could not blossom. Same thing for me. You know, losing my father at 5, my uncle mysteriously found in his swimming pool, did not drown, is a great swimmer. My grandmother being shot in the church by a deranged man when I was 11, so 5, 6, and 11. As a young child, I was destined to have a lot of anger, rage, bitterness, and maybe even hate. And so by the time I was 16 into my teenage years and my early 20s, I really started hating white people, but more especially white men. And I remember one day, and these are little simple things, may not make sense to the average person, but simple things. I remember one day I was invited as a minister at this point on the James Robeson show. He's a Christian minister, pastor. And in the middle of the show, talking about some of my experience and the pain from my father's assassination and all of the other tragedies, he just stopped in the middle of the show and said, "Can I hug you?" And for me, that was the most healing moment in my life.
Now we must act. Use the hashtag #Let'sBridge. We welcome your donations to the King Center on our Facebook page or dreamforwardfund.org. That's dreamforwardfund.org. We also give special thanks to our sponsor, the AIDS Healthcare Foundation. Special thanks to our partner, the Martin Luther King Jr. Advisory Council. Let's bridge young people this summer with Camp Now. For more information, visit us at choosenonviolence.org.